I get a little bit skeptical sometimes when I see some of the same messages being trotted out on social media, which just tend to attract likes. Quite often it's around diversity and inclusion, which is a fantastic message, but I do sometimes get the impression that it's used as a signal for virtue. It can be about just following the crowd on a particular news story. It can be about adopting a moral position. But what you've just said there, Amelia, is it's about the why. It's about the outcome rather than just the immediate feedback that you get. Let's just bring this back, if I may, into a legal setting, because the vast majority of our audience is either from the legal sector. They're lawyers, they're barristers, they're representatives of law firms, or they're in the wider legal industry. It's particularly crucial as a lawyer, I think, that you think about your brand, the way you perceive, for two reasons. The first is because businesses and consumers who wish to approach law firms, they tend to really care about the reputation of the lawyer, about how they are approachable or that sort of thing. And the second thing is because I think historically lawyers have been so dreadful at promoting themselves in a way that both is positive and which differentiates themselves with the standard legal stereotype. So I guess, first of all, what's your view on that in terms of, is there a brand that you as a non-lawyer would associate with the legal profession? Is it a positive one? And do you think that lawyers who are so inclined have an opportunity to break that down?
I think the first thing to say in relation to the legal profession particularly is that there are very few people who take personal branding seriously, and therefore there is a huge opportunity for you to take their opportunities from them, right? And if we break that down into its simplest form, the reason why that is true is because, as you pointed out, people don't, just regardless of whether you're B2B or B2C, people are not going to trust you with their shit that they've got going on, whether it's a divorce or contracts or whatever it might be, if they don't trust you, right? And so if you're having to come into meetings to convince someone to trust you, you've really lost. You've really lost. So why wouldn't you want to take control of that initial top of funnel conversation, that narrative, and position yourself as a trustworthy legal professional before they even get in touch? Because you're going to save yourself a lot of time with pitches that you don't win, a lot of time with conversations that you have that don't end up becoming anything. And we know you're short on time, right? I've seen my lawyer bills. They charge me a lot of money. They don't have a lot of time clearly they have limited time because that's why it's so expensive, right? So if you're short on time, then wouldn't you want to streamline that top of funnel so you're only having conversations with people that are actually going to turn into business? And when you ask that question about who do you think of in the law profession, the three people that I immediately think of are all personal brands, not law firms. So Ada Stevenson, who is a contract tech lawyer, think of her immediately. I think of Jonathan Burrell, who's a divorce attorney in America. He's decent on LinkedIn. He's pretty big on LinkedIn. And then I think of the legal queen on TikTok. Those are the three people that I immediately thought of, which fair enough, I'm biased. I work in the personal branding space. I like following people. But I think if you ask a lot of people in those particular spaces, I think they would say the same thing. Those are three of the people that they would think of. And then I go, oh, wait, there are bigger ones too. What are they called? IDG5? Like, what? Like, I don't know what these big companies, big law firms are called, because they've all got these massive long ass names that to me sound like an accountant and snore the hell out of me. Whereas I much prefer to work with Jonathan or Alice, right? And I would like to think I'm a fairly sophisticated business person, and that's me saying that, right? So imagine what the general public think about them when you think about these white papers that law firms put out, or these snotty, complex, tweets. Like, no, people buy from people, particularly in professional services, right? If you're going to be my lawyer, I want to know who you are. I want to put a face to the name, and I want to know that I can trust you damn well with my money, my defense, my contracts, my everything. And that is why personal branding for lawyers, I think, is so big.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead right. I mean, let me just use this example of the twist that the legal sector has got itself into. You've just said people buy from people, which is quite right. Yet what the majority of the legal sector tries to do is to prevent the people from developing a personal brand by forcing them to operate under the law firm's brand umbrella very restrictively. So, for example, a good friend of mine, she's just been made partner at a big international commercial practice. And she's constantly being told, raise your profile, get out there, increase your network, increase your reputation. Yet she asked recently if she could have funding for a personal website. And she was very quickly turned down. And the reason she was turned down, they said, was because they were uncomfortable with her building her own profile, because they were concerned that in due course she might leave the firm and take her following with her. So whilst she's being constantly encouraged to grow her profile, what they actually mean is just, we want you to earn us more money. And we don't really care how you do it. And we're certainly not going to help you or indeed support you in doing it, but just kind of find a way. And I just think that's so back to front, because ultimately it's restrictive, because she's a great person and she's got a strong message, she's got a wonderful personality, but they just wanted to operate as a stereotype of the rather dull corporate brand that they've built. What's your advice for her, Amelia?
I think my first bit of advice would be to the employer. Like, where is your growth mindset here? What if you're so concerned about someone building their brand and then leaving you? It says more about your employment kind of culture and also who you hire, maybe, and how you lead than anything. My team and I appreciate some of this a like for like comparison, but my team get headhunted every day. None of them have left so far, and that's because I am trying my best anyway to be the best employer I can possibly be within reason. And they enjoy working here. We make it a fun environment. So if you're worried about your team leaving because they build their personal brand, I think it's just more about you as an employer than it does about your team. I think also, if you're going to say, go and build your brand, go and build your brand, go and build your brand because it benefits us all, but don't build it like that. Of course they're not going to build their brand. It's like saying, oh, can you please cut up those peppers for me? Oh, don't cut them like that. I want them cut like this. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I think my advice to the employer would be like, so are you going to be old and stuffy like everyone else? Or are you actually going to be an innovative brand and encourage people to do this? Because this is part of their self-development. People are going to leave you regardless. If they're a partner, they're probably going to be there for a while, which is a good thing. But people will leave you regardless. No job is permanent. I am very aware of that with my team. I would say to them, I'm like, when you leave, and they're like, no, we're going to be here forever. I'm like, no. Eventually you will outgrow me or I'll outgrow you, and that's how this works, and that's fine. Like, but if I can be a part of your journey and you can say great things about my employment when you leave, that's even better. But whilst you're here, if I can have a huge impact on your life so that you can have a huge impact on my business, that sounds like a great, fruitful exchange to me. So that is why I spend so much time and effort investing in their personal brands, because I want them to be big because it impacts my bottom line. That's how that works. But to your friend, some advice for her, I'm just going to do it anyway. You know, pay for him. We charge $2,500 for a personal branding website, babe. Come over to us, we'll sort you right out.
Right. Well, I tell you what, I'll have that conversation with her, Amelia. But also just a question about that, because an even better way of doing it, I think, would probably be if you were to persuade the business to change their mindset whilst you work primarily with people or exclusively with people. Is that a conversation if there's a senior partner of a law firm watching who does take this rather restrictive approach, would you be willing to seek to persuade him or her that they've got that back to front?
Brand messages that are shared by an individual's like social media versus a company's social media receive 24 times more engagement. Are shared 24 times more frequently. Brand messages that are shared for a personal social media versus a company's social media receive 8 times more views, etc. They also have leads that convert 7 times more frequently. 92% of individuals trust other individuals, even if they're strangers, recommendations over company recommendations, which basically means that every single one of the people that you're trying to attract as a customer could give 2 shits about your company brand. They care about what your people are saying, right? So if you can make your people advocates for your business and build trust with the people that may or may not be ready to buy from you yet, but might be at one point, you're going to get all the leads in the market before your competition. And if that doesn't convince you to be a bit more open in the way that you're thinking about your marketing, then okay, go die in a corner like every other dinosaur brand. But I guarantee you the brands like Steve and Alice Stevenson are building, they're going to be one taking all your business funding because they really take this stuff seriously.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Alice is great, and the great thing about Alice's content is it's just completely authentic. It's nothing really to do with her being a lawyer. It's nothing to do with the
But do
area
you really
of law.
hire a lawyer because they're a lawyer? You hire them because you like them. So what better way to build up the trust is than to build the likability at scale? Like, I don't think anyone picks a marketing agency. Like, as I actually break down the buying decision, I don't think anyone picks an accountant, a lawyer, a marketing agency, a recruitment agency based on how good, obviously it factors in a little bit, but how good the output of that agency is, because you don't really know what their output's going to be like yet because you have worked with them. Pick them because you like them. That's why Alice has done what she's done. She's taken her likability and her personality and she's made her have a competitive business advantage.